All right, so let's talk about a memorable inside of a card. There are going to be some of you that feel really comfortable with writing. And in the next video, I'm going to provide a download of all sorts of things that you could write in a holiday card or that you could think of writing, like personal experiences, personal memories, and things like that. But if meaningful messages intimidates you, you could still make the inside of your card memorable. Now, about 95% of my cards, I start off with a white piece of cardstock, but if I go to another color, it's usually craft, gray, or navy blue. So I decided to grab some light gray cardstock here, and I'm going to create my own background. And for this, I'm going to be using the Snowflake Stencil from scrapbook.com that is extremely well loved in my stash. I'm going to be using my stencil to emboss, and I'm using a embossing dabber at the moment to really get into some of those fine areas, and I'm going to switch to an embossing pad as well just to ensure I get into those small little pieces of the cardstock, because with stenciling it's kind of hard to tell whether you actually get all the areas or not. The nice thing is you can always lift up and check when you're using something like this where you hold your stencil in place with tape or magnets. Okay, so now I'm going into adding my embossing powder. I just grabbed a piece of copy paper, threw it underneath, and I'm using this kind of silver glittery embossing powder here for my snowflakes. I thought the silver on gray would look really nice. And I'm just going to melt that embossing powder until it turns shiny. You don't want to emboss it much longer than that or it'll turn out to be quite dull. So I'm going to add some liquid glue on the black because my card is a little bit warped, the cardstock, from the heat embossing. So I'm going to make sure I use some nice strong glue here and a good strong card base to keep it nice and flat. And I've gone ahead and die cut this cool die from Waffle Flower where it comes with the frame to go around this sort of snowflake border as well as the border itself. And I'm going to use both pieces on today's card because I think both pieces are very worthy of being used. What's cool as well is when you die cut this, you also get the circle for the middle of the frame in case you want to stamp on it or do anything with it. And I played around with an appropriate look, either the circle in or out. When I added the season's greetings here, I found it got a little bit lost with the gray background, so I decided to try a white circle in the center and then the season's greeting on top to see if that helped with the sentiment getting lost. And then I went ahead and adhered these tiny dies. I don't know why, but every time I forget to back these with some adhesive tape so that I don't have to sit here and fussy glue. I know there's like the term fussy cut, but fussy glue drives me just as crazy. I'm going to use my Misty stamping press thingy that I use to get even pressure on my Misty to just kind of push these down and make sure they're nice in place and sticking onto the front of the card. It's a pretty simple card as far as things go. There's quite a few dies and then just the stenciled background, but you could use something like patterned paper and make this card even simpler and easier. And I said I wasn't going anywhere without using that frame die, so this is the type of card that I would then give in person, and I'm going to add this to the front and just hand letter their name in the center and it will be all finished. So that's a kind of a cool way to decorate your envelope. Now I'm all about making my insides kind of different, so I'm going to go ahead and add a gift card pocket die to the center and run this through my die cutting machine. Now a quick tip, if you do this, you should only run it through the die cutting machine about halfway, because what ended up happening is it went and squeezed and put pressure on the front of the card and it made it kind of warp a little bit, and those die cuts seem to now be inlaid die cuts because it put so much pressure on there and kind of squeezed them on top of the paper. So this is a really cool way to add something different to your inside of your card, and you could add yourself a little gift card. Now, when this series is over, I'm going to be doing in December a really cool video on how to add a whole bunch of fun and cool insides to your cards to make them super memorable. Can't wait to do that.